historical figures that may not have actually existed. As humans, we gravitate towards grandiose stories of brave leaders, mythological beings, and incredible minds. Often our stories and folklores are intertwined. There are countless historical figures that have shaped our society, but have you ever wondered if they all really existed? Mulan. Although most of us know Mulan from the Disney animated feature, she was already a legendary figure in China. Many people are divided on whether she was a real person or not. The Ballad of Mulan first appeared in the musical records of Old and New during the Southern Qin dynasty in the 6th century. King Arthur. While King Arthur has been a legendary British leader in many books, plays, films, and TV shows, most modern historians agree that he is an unhistorical figure. Most of the stories surrounding King Arthur come from English and Welsh folklore as well as literary invention. Robin Hood. Robin Hood is the legendary outlaw that is often featured in English folklore and has been a mainstay of literature and films for many years. He is best known for stealing from the rich in order to give to the poor. There have been numerous ongoing debates for centuries whether he existed or not, but there has never been concrete evidence for him to have existed. Confucius. While many historians agree that philosopher and great thinker Confucius was in fact a real person, some have questioned whether or not he was real. Lionel Jensen, an associate professor of history and the director of Chinese studies at the University of Colorado in Denver, says that Jesuit missionaries brought the idea that Confucius was the founder of the school of thought during the 16th century. William Tell. William Tell is a folk story hero from Switzerland. According to legend, Tell was an expert marksman with a crossbow and was the man who killed Albrecht Gessler, a tyrant ruling in Altdorf. Many have debated whether he was a real person or not, but modern historians do not believe there is evidence that he was real. Sun Tzu. While the influential book The Art of War has been attributed to Sun Tzu, a legendary Chinese general, military strategist, philosopher, and writer, it is not 100% clear whether he existed or not. His existence is still uncertain, and many have said that the book may actually be a compilation of many military leaders' lessons. Homer. There is a great debate amongst scholars whether he existed or not. Those who believe he was real say he was alive during the 8th or 9th century BCE. He would have been a poet of the oral tradition, and so it is believed that the works attributed to him were definitely transcribed by others. Kinte. Kinte is a character from the 1976 book Roots, the saga of an American family, that was later adapted into a 1977 TV miniseries. In the show, the character was played by LeVar Burton. While he was probably based on a real person, Kinte himself was not a real person. Helen of Troy. As stated in Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, Helen of Troy was the face that launched 1,000 ships. The most beautiful woman in the world doesn't seem likely that she actually existed, but it merely a character in Homer's epic poem The Iliad. Jesus. This is a tricky one. Most modern historians believe that Jesus actually historically existed, however many agree that it is uncertain that his portrayals in the Bible are actually accurate or historically reliable. Regardless, he is undeniably a centrally important figure in Christianity. King Solomon. Similar to Jesus, historians generally agree that Solomon most likely himself existed, However, historians across the spectrum of biblical archaeology agree that it is very difficult to construct a historically accurate portrayal of the king. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was an unidentified serial killer who was active in impoverished areas of London in 1888. He has never been identified, so it's really hard to know whether all the murders attributed to him were actually committed by the same person. The murders remain unsolved to this day, leading many Jack the Ripper legends becoming a combination of pseudo-history, folklore, and historical research. Odysseus. Odysseus, also known by his Latin name Ulysses, is a legendary Greek king and warrior who is the central figure and hero of Homer's The Odyssey. He also is a key figure in the Iliad. Some historians argue that he may have actually existed, but there is no concrete evidence to prove this. Pythagoras. We all learned about the Pythagorean theorem, but who was the man behind the mathematical theorem? While historians agree that he likely existed, his life is completely shrouded in mystery, and almost nothing is known for certain about him. While many works and teachings are attributed to him, it is unclear whether he truly wrote all of these works himself. Caroline Keene. The beloved Nancy Drew mystery series was attributed to Caroline Keene, but did you know that this was actually a pseudonym? The stories were produced by Stratemeyer Syndicate, who hired writers like Mildred Wirt to write the manuscripts for the popular books. Sadly, they were paid just $125 per book, and were forced to give up rights to the works as well as maintain confidentiality. Betty Crocker. Betty Crocker is a fictional character created by the brand of the same name to use in advertising campaigns. The portrait of Betty Crocker was commissioned in 1936, and was used on product packaging. However, she was never a real person. The name Betty was chosen as it was seen as a cheery, all-American name. Jack Dawson. While the events of the Titanic were certainly real, not everything that was shown in the 1997 Titanic movie was based on reality. Jack Dawson was not a real person but a fictional character. However, at the Fairview Cemetery where 121 victims are buried, there is a grave labeled J. Dawson. The real J. Dawson was named Joseph, and was a trimmer in the engine room of the ship. Amazingly, the crew realized this coincidence after the movie was filmed. Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is such a beloved character that has been a staple of literature, TV shows, and films that many believe he was a real person. Even though he wasn't, Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer who created the character, did base him on real-life surgeon Joseph Bell, who was known for drawing broad conclusions from very small details, just like Holmes. Zorro. Similar to Sherlock Holmes, Zorro is such a beloved character that many people think he was a real person. Zorro is a fictional character who is usually portrayed as a charming vigilante who defends the common and indigenous people of California against tyrants. It is believed that he was inspired by Joaquin Murrieta, who was called the Robin Hood of the West. And Taylor. And Taylor is one of the most popular clothing brands out there, which has led many to ask, who is Ann Taylor? Funnily enough, there is no actual Ann Taylor, and the company was founded by a man named Richard Libeskind. The name came from a best-selling dress from Libeskind's father's clothing store. Juan Valdez. Juan Valdez is a fictional character that is often associated with the National Federation of Coffee Growers of Colombia, as he appeared in advertisements since 1958. His mule Conchita usually makes an appearance as well, carrying sacks of coffee beans. However, he is not based on a real person. Allegra Coleman. Supermodel and actress Allegra Coleman was featured on the cover of Esquire magazine in 1996, and was called Hollywood's next dream girl. Agents quickly scrambled to find her to book for jobs, but there was one problem: she wasn't real. The whole thing was a hoax by the author of the article, Martha Sherrill. The woman posing as Coleman on the cover was Ollie Larder, who ended up landing many gigs after the stunt. Tokyo Rose. Tokyo Rose was the name that Allied troops gave the English-speaking group of female radio broadcasters spreading Japanese propaganda during World War II. They earned a very negative reputation for their efforts in trying to demoralize troops. Iva Taguri, one of the members, was actually arrested for hate speech. However, a person named Tokyo Rose never existed. Pope Joan. While it would be nice to have had a prominent female pope, the fact of the matter is, even though many believed she existed, Pope Joan was not a real person, and has been debunked by modern-day historians. John Barron. During the 1980s, when reporters called the Trump Organization, they were directed to Donald Trump's official spokesman, John Barron, who would be quoted in several print stories about the Trump family. It was revealed years later that there was no John Barron, and it was Donald Trump himself, who admitted that he was his own official spokesperson, and that nobody had noticed. The Marlboro Man. While many believed that the Marlboro Man was an actual person, he was actually just a marketing invention created by the company. 4 of the actors who portrayed the Marlboro Man actually died of smoking-related diseases, since the ads were on air in the 1950s.